There we go. So I'd like to introduce Julie to those of you who don't know her. Julie's going to be talking to us tonight, and I'll let Julie introduce her subject and tell us what she's going to be talking about. And thank you very much for giving us your time.
And thank you so much for giving me your time as well. So is it okay, Susan, if I go ahead and share my screen because I have a presentation that I'll
Pleasure.
be speaking off of with some video clips and everything?
Fine.
Um, okay. Okay, it looks like I have permission to share. Excellent. All right. Just going to share my presentation and my screen. I'm sorry. Slideshow. Okay. Okay, so my topic tonight is supporting dynamic intelligence in neurodiverse clients. My name is Julie Meyerowitz. I am a speech language pathologist. That's what the SLP stands for. And I'm also a neurodiversity coach. We made Aliyah to Mali Damim almost exactly 4 years ago, August 10th, 11th. It was around midnight. We made Aliyah 4 years ago. And this is a bit of my personal background. My undergrad major is in drama therapy, and I've been acting since the age of 8, directing since 16, teaching writing since 19, and all of these things have influenced the approach that I have developed over time for working with autistic and other neurodivergent clients and their families. After college, I studied Russian in college, and I worked for the Sokhnut in Irkutsk, Siberia. And yes, it was cold. Um, and I am from the East Coast of the US. Many of the cities on this map I have lived in. And this is my husband and 2 daughters on a hike that we went on. And actually have a strong interest in permaculture. And that also has, if anybody is interested in that, it's also a strong influence on the approach that I've developed. So, like I said, my undergraduate is drama therapy with a minor in Russian. My master's in science is from Columbia University from 2008. And in 2017, I started training in something called relationship development intervention, which is a methodology which is primarily a parent coaching method, but I also work with independent adults who are on the spectrum and other neurodivergences that was developed for autism, but has been found effective also for OCD, ADD, ADHD, PTSD, and developmental disorders and differences. And I'm very close to getting my permaculture design certificate, which is basically the connection with this is it's watching the flow of energy within natural systems, which is usually like an alternative to agriculture. But a lot of the concepts from this I've incorporated into my method of treatment for the clients that I work with. So, what's different about my approach? It is the focus on what's called dynamic intelligence. I'm actually curious in the chat. I don't know if I could see the chat. You know what? I'm not going to mess with the screen right now. We'll have a chance to chat afterwards. But I am curious, maybe if people have physical hands to hold up, if anybody is familiar with the term dynamic intelligence, because I know a lot of people have not heard of it. It looks like this is a new term for a lot of people. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in this conversation today and in our discussion afterwards. So most approaches, particularly for autism, focus on static skills. So basically, dynamic intelligence and static intelligence is coming from sort of like a multiple intelligences approach. And while in like ABA or behavioral approaches, autism is defined and described as based on the behaviors that are different. In RDI, autism is seen as an imbalance between static intelligence and dynamic intelligence, and I'll describe these terms in more detail in a moment, with a favoring towards static intelligence and relative struggles in dynamic intelligence. So static intelligence is where we kind of store our facts, learn rules, we have formulas, patterns, black and white thinking. It's often thought of like the intellect is often associated with us, like what we're scored on in school is often according to static intelligence. And it does well. People who prefer or are stronger in static intelligence prefer predictable environments and processes. Dynamic intelligence is more sensing the environment, more experiential, more based in relationship, more accepting of exceptions to rules. Thinking of in shades of gray, actually, the woman from England who was my supervisor as I was becoming certified as a relationship development intervention consultant, her business is called Thinking in Shades of Gray. And more strength and intuition and more tolerance for what's unpredictable. So RDI, what I'm trained in, thinks, like I said, of static intelligence as a relative strength, whereas what we're working on is dynamic intelligence. Okay, so I do have a little video clip here of an example, if anybody's familiar with the show The Big Bang Theory. And we have a character here who has relative strength in dynamic intelligence, and another character who has relative strength in static intelligence. And it's a little bit of a misunderstanding or a working through concepts between them. If anybody is sensitive to Shmirat Anayim, the female character, my daughter says she likes to socially distance from her wardrobe. So you can't understand it if you look away just by listening. But it is actually part of, it's a phrase that they came up with during COVID. They're like, they're like, why is everybody always socially distancing from their wardrobes when we go out? But it is actually, it's part of the expression of who she is. So you can still get the difference between these two characters just by listening if you want to look away. Okay.
Sheldon, I didn't see your present.
That's because I didn't bring one.
Why not?
Don't ask. The entire institution of gift giving makes no sense.
Too late.
Let's say that I go out and I spend $50 on you. Well, it's a laborious activity because I have to imagine what you need, whereas you know what you need. Now, I could simplify things, just give you the $50 directly, and then you could give me $50 on my birthday, and so on until one of us dies, leaving the other one old and $50 richer. And I ask you, is it worth it?
Told you not to ask.
Well, Sheldon, you're his friend. Friends give each other presents.
I accept your premise. I reject your conclusion.
Try telling him it's a non-optional social convention.
Wait, what?
Just do it.
It's a non-optional social convention.
Huh, fair enough.
He came with a manual.
Okay. So, hold on.
Sheldon,
I'm
I
trying
didn't see
to go
your present.
past it.
That's because I didn't bring one.
Go to the next slide. Okay. So the woman's name is Penny. The man's name is Sheldon. The two main figures. I'd like maybe people could just shout out who do you think is stronger in dynamic intelligence of these two characters? Everybody's feeling shy today. Sharon, I think you're speaking, but you're on mute.
Well, I love that show. Obviously, Sheldon is not strong in the dynamic.
Right.
What's his name again? The other one? What did he say? His name.
So the male character who was speaking is named Howard.
Right. For him, he's
yeah. Howard. Is there another character that you would think is even more representative of dynamic intelligence in that clip?
Oh, well, I mean, she also, like, she's also is stronger than that. She's definitely not static, that's for sure.
Right. And then which character is representing static intelligence, the strength in static intelligence?
Sheldon 100%.
He's like off the charts in the area of static intelligence. And when I clarify this for a lot of families that I work with, it's very sort of enlightening for them, because a lot of times they will tell themselves, or people will tell them, but he's so smart, when it is somebody who's higher functioning in that area. I also have clients that are pre-verbal, and they do still see that a lot of times, like young children and even adults that I work with that are not fully verbal when we first start working together. And we still do see that the relative strengths are in the areas of static intelligence. So
Sorry, I
I
just
think
realized I was in a dark room. Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. It was the voice that we needed. So I think of in this scene, but like sort of Howard is sort of like the go-between coach between the two characters. I think of the two extremes in this scene as the young woman Penny as more representative of dynamic intelligence. And I actually think that what my daughters called the socially distancing from her wardrobe, that she's very embodied, she's very connected with her body. Much more so at the beginning of the series than she is with her mind. And Sheldon's the opposite. He's very connected with his mind, but not so much his body. And actually, as the series progresses, the two characters influence each other to become more balanced in their areas of strength and weaknesses in these two areas. So, Sheldon, was he right in what he was saying about gift giving? And again, I can't really see raising hands.
He wasn't technically wrong.
Exactly, Susan. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, he was actually accurate in what he was saying and summing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give you, you give me. And we're back to his crits, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about basically the formula and the rules of the exchange.
Yeah.
Was he not 100% right? Was there a gap in his thinking?
He didn't understand the process of why we give a gift, because it's a friend and it's nice to do that. To him, it was an action that needed to be it was a transaction that
Exactly.
without the emotional input.
Go ahead, Miriam, go ahead. Miriam, I don't think you're muted, but can you speak a little bit louder?
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. I meant to be muted.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to contribute. Did anybody else want to add to this?
It's the effort that he's not focusing on, and the thought behind it.
Right.
And he's focusing on the value, he's focusing on the financial value, and he's actually focusing on something that, in a way, is nice. He's like, I want to give you something that you want, and I don't know what you want, so you might as well pick it. But the social meaning of giving presents, so it's the thought and it's the intention. Even if you get it wrong, if someone is in sync and whatever it is, and with the relationship, they'll still appreciate the thought, even if it's not exactly what they wanted. And also, a lot of times presents are nice because it's dafka something that you wouldn't buy for yourself, but it's nice to have.
Right. And it also has in it, a present has in it something, if you're familiar with autism, like the conversation around autism, it's sort of implied and sort of built in something called theory of mind. In order to give a present, you have to have some sort of, what theory of mind is something that comes very naturally to neurotypicals, at least between each other, and is difficult between neurotypicals and neurodivergence, which is sort of and Sheldon will sometimes in the series say to Penny, you can read people's minds and I can't. He feels almost like she has some sort of magical ability. Like he can't calculate what other people are thinking, which is where his strength lies. And in giving a gift, you kind of have to figure out, and we do it without thinking about it, neurotypicals do, especially I'm thinking in a room full of therapists. These are people with relative strengths in the area of theory of mind compared to the rest of the population. This is something that Sheldon struggles in. Okay. So basically, what dynamic intelligence is, and we also, I think, Sharon, you pointed to this, it's based in relationship. Going back to the name of what my earlier training was, is relationship development intervention. That we develop dynamic intelligence through relationship. And it's a relational way of thinking. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2 way of thinking. It's this relative to this kind of gets us here. And it's actually something that we need in daily life. So I might say that Sheldon's got a lot of beads. In the picture that represented static intelligence earlier, I had a shelf, and that's often how I think of describing static intelligence. It's like boxes on a shelf. We have our history box. We have our taxes box. We have our how to get from point A to point B box. And then we have sub boxes within it. The dynamic, and that's the static intelligence. It's the sort of the facts and rules. But the dynamic intelligence is the thread that holds it all together. And so basically knowing what box to take off the shelf when and in what situation, and knowing what to do when you don't have that box yet for the situation that you're faced with. That's what dynamic intelligence enables us to do. And so basically, through my thinking as a therapist who was treating autism before I specialized in it, I saw that these two things play together, the static intelligence and the dynamic intelligence. And most methods are what's called top-down. They're behavioral. They focus on the rules. They focus on the behaviors. And the question is, when you do that, do you develop dynamic intelligence? What I've seen is that a lot of times it actually undermines dynamic intelligence. However, a lot of times when you do put the bulk of your energy when working with individuals and families into the development of dynamic intelligence, both develop in tandem together. One of the things that dynamic intelligence is closely related to is growth mindset. So it's the personal agency of the individual or the family that we're working with grows as dynamic intelligence grows, And because the individual or the family becomes more self-motivated, a lot of times they'll pursue and pick up skills almost spontaneously because they're motivated to accomplish something. And if we're there to support that skill development. I'm sorry, Michael, were you going to say something?
No.
No. Okay. All right. And so basically working on dynamic intelligence is basically like building the soil. I actually often, particularly coming from my permaculture background, I often tell the families that I work with when I'm working with the parents of autistic and neurodivergent children, you are the soil in which your child grows. And if you're depleted, that's going to undermine the whole process. Okay, and that brings us to, I have an interactive exercise that I could share, I guess, with Susan. Would you be able to distribute this to everybody after we meet today?
I can have a go,
yeah. It's not right now. I can email it to you afterwards.
Thank
so
you.
Basically what this is, what's that, Susan?
I said email me the link or WhatsApp me the link and I'll just pop it in the chat. It's easier that way. Okay.
Can I do it after the presentation? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. So basically this is something that I also often will share with families and colleagues early on in this process. It's a series of videos and it's kind of fun. You could do it with your family. You could do it with your colleagues. You could do it on your lunch break. And it's like 2 to 5 minute videos. And to sort of just ask yourself, what is being represented here? Is this more a representation of static intelligence or dynamic intelligence? Because being able to see the difference between the two is sort of the beginning of being able to work on it. Okay. Again, I'm in a room full of therapists. Some of you might have heard of Deb Dana and Stephen Porges. So another thing that we work on early on is an awareness of self-regulation and co-regulation. So again, like the top-down approach thinks of the downstream effects of regulation as either good behaviors or bad behaviors to either be reinforced or changed. Rather, if we're starting with self-regulation and co-regulation, a lot of times that internalizes to the individual and the system. And a lot of times the behaviors don't need to be worked on specifically. And because the behaviors are really just downstream from a feeling of lack of safety. Is everybody, like, if you could please turn on your screens just so I feel like I'm speaking to people, and just give me like a thumbs up or thumbs down if you're familiar with polyvagal theory. You're not familiar. Susan F is not. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and introduce it. Sharon, not really. Okay.
I am. Yeah.
Okay. I would think some people here are. Yeah. Okay. If not polyvagal theory, I'm sure you have. Yeah.
I've heard about it a lot, but I didn't learn so much about it. Like I've heard the name so many times, but I don't really know.
Well, today is the day. I want to see what time it is. Okay. We actually have an interactive exercise that we could do. I'm going to share with you guys sort of the results of a time that I did this with another group previously, so you could have it to sort of work off of. And maybe I think in order to access the chat, oh no, I have the chat here. Excellent. So basically, we're going to do this verbally and visually. A lot of times I'll have people do it in writing. So basically polyvagal theory was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. That was the man on the previous slide. I think in the 90s, to describe behavior and regulation in sea life, I think primarily. And then eventually the world of coaching and therapy was like, you know what, we could use this. But he's lovely from what I could tell, but he speaks like a research paper. And so a very helpful woman named Deb Dana translates him for us so we could actually use it with our clients. And so his idea is that basically the vagus nerve, like its name, is a nerve that wanders through the body. And he divides the vagus nerve into 3 different branches. The dorsal vagal, you'll hear that a lot of the words sound like sea life, like the dorsal fin of a dolphin. The sympathetic, the central channel of the body, and the ventral vagal, the front portion of the body. Okay, and I think we do have some time. You know what? I don't want to take too much time and I want to have time to discuss. So, you know what? We could go ahead and do this. This is an exercise from Deb Dana's book, The Polyvagal Theory and Therapy. It's a very helpful book that I think a lot of folks here would find useful. And she also has another book that's behind me, and I'm not going to duck down. She has a lot of books that are very helpful and very practical. And she also has some great continuing education trainings that you could get credit from learning from her. Okay. So just looking at this chart, we're going to start here. Oh, excuse me. With a sympathetic. And a lot of, I think folks here might be more familiar with this, but I think this term is confusing for a lot of the clients that I've worked with. But it's related to the sympathetic nervous system. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a brief paragraph that she provides in this book to describe the state. If you could go ahead and just take a moment and connect with the words. And then in the chat, when I say, and then begin to map it, and that's how each paragraph is going to end, go ahead and just type into the chat any association you have with what I've just written. If it's a specific person, maybe describe your relationship to them as opposed to putting their name. Like, don't actually put your mother-in-law's name, for example. My mother-in-law, or my neighbor. It could be a song. It could be a character from popular culture, or it could be like a situation that you've been in. Okay. So the first one is this yellow portion here. Okay. Remember a time when you felt the sense of sympathetic mobilizing, Remember a time when you felt the sense of sympathetic mobilizing energy moving through you. You might feel a sense of too much energy flooding your system, a sense of unease, perhaps even a sense of being overwhelmed. You might think, one more thing will put me over the edge. And now let just enough of it into your mind and body to get a flavor of it, a bit of a taste of it, and then go ahead and share in the chat what you associate with that feeling. Yeah. Susan, I think thank you, Miriam. A lot of us have that stepmom, step parents. For this, on the sheet that I'm going to share with you guys, I have the song Helter Skelter, if you're familiar with the Beatles. A kind of like kinetic daughter. So yes, I have a teenage daughter, Sharon, I understand. Yeah. Okay, give it a moment if anybody else wants to share.
Julie, that was very validating. She's 14 now.
We will survive. We will survive.
Oh, it gets worse as it gets older.
Oh, thank you. Something to look forward to.
The problem is,
Okay,
going
Marianne.
forward, it's the grandchildren, you know, the adult, and then you go to the grandchildren. So it adds layer upon layer, I promise you.
All right. Oh my. Okay, I'll have to circle back. Okay, this is a really good example, Miriam. Overwhelm and anxiety felt when October 7th and a very difficult family situation happened together.
Oh,
Oh my.
gosh.
Oh my. Yeah. I'll tell you, I was listening to the news earlier, and this is where I was, and I did a lot of the exercises between my last client. There was a half-hour gap. I did a lot of the exercises that I share with my clients to prepare myself for this conversation today. I think these are great examples. Okay, so we're going to go next to the purple section of this chart, and I'll read the paragraph. And again, when I say begin to map it, we'll share it in the chat. Okay, this is dorsal vagal. It's associated with the back part of the body. Think of a time when you felt the dorsal vagal sense of disconnect, a sense of collapse. There's not enough energy to run your system. If you were in a room full of people, it might feel as if there was a plexiglass shield between you and them. You could see them but couldn't reach them. It might feel like depression. I also often think of dissociation. It's hard to find hope. Just let a tiny bit of it into your mind and body, just enough to get a taste of it, and now begin to map it. Just to get the juices flowing. The song that I have on the sheet that I'll share afterwards that I associate with this, death and dying of my father. I'm sure. That just like shut down feeling. Yeah, the song that I have is Comfortably Numb. And one of my clients said, well, if it's dorsal vagal, it's probably uncomfortably numb. But I actually think that song always made me feel a bit uncomfortable. Going into a room where I don't know anyone. Yeah. Or walking into a room where you feel unaccepted for whatever reason, whether it's coming from you or from them. So for this, I would write the news with this war. Yeah. Yeah. And then and the months after my earlier example, just down, almost dead on site. Totally. When everything comes at once, child crisis, parent crisis, work issues, and I can't do enough. And yet it's too much, right, Joanna? You're probably doing too much, but it still feels like it's not enough because it's not getting out of the whirlwind of everything. Totally. These are great examples. Great examples. Okay, a moment if anybody else wants to share, and let's go to ventral vagal. That's happier. Okay, let's go to ventral vagal. Let's go to the green top of our chart. Okay. Think of a time when you felt the flow of ventral vagal energy, the sense that everything is okay, not wonderful or perfect, but okay. The world is safe enough, and you can move through it with ease. Bring this moment to life and let it fill you from your core to your skin. And when it's fully alive, begin to map that. This one you could fill yourself up with. We don't want to fill yourself up with the other two. The song I have for this one on the chart is Louis Armstrong's It's a Wonderful World. Okay, birth of the grandchildren, yes. Different than the birth of your children, then you're exhausted. The birth of your grandchildren, you get to fully enjoy it.
In a different way. Very special.
In a different way.
Very special.
Right. Right. It's very special. I've heard my friends who are grandparents say, like, now I feel like I really arrived. Yes, totally. Totally. Spending time in nature with dogs and husband. Yeah, so like the Japanese have a practice called forest bathing, and I think this is a lot of the point of it. See Joanna nodding. Yeah. And like a lot of animal assisted therapy. He'd voted to it. Yes. Yes. Getting time to do it. Yes, totally. It feels like an accomplishment.
Is that he'd body do it, or is his body do something different?
Yeah, is that something different? Yeah, Mel, can you? I'm thinking he'd go to do it. I was
I
checking myself.
might have misspelled it, but it's like the Finnish practice of being out in nature and alone by your.
Like webmaster, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my husband's close to Breslov, so he'd go to do it. Yeah, yeah. I often feel like, especially like since the start of the war, when I go out to do that, to do Hitbo to do, and I could actually put on some like Breslov Nigunum, since that is also something that I connect with. But I also have clients that are not at all religious. I had one client that his spiritual, actually, I think this father himself was on the spectrum, but his spiritual connection, or what he had instead of his spiritual connection, he said he would read physics magazines. Um, so, so whatever it is that helps you to feel connected. Okay. After yes, yes, after a really good therapy session with a client feels rewarding. It's Sharon, it's totally for this category. Because I mean, for me, and maybe you guys could talk about your own experience, it feels like, okay, I'm functional. What I'm doing is actually working.
So
Shabbat when there are no arguments.
The reason why I was debating is just because, yes, it could feel rewarding to me, and then I feel okay, like I know what I'm doing, or like that I'm really, helping someone. Right. But we're talking about they're still in pain, and we were talking about something like really deep and probably difficult or whatever it is. Maybe it was also really good for them, and it was of course it could also be like a session that they really felt a lot of healing. That's right. Even the best. Right. But it's not always like that. It's also it could feel rewarding when you know that there was a breakthrough, but it's painful for them. I'm gonna say it out there,
right.
But
right.
that's so also healing. It's just the start of healing. Right. It just doesn't feel like that for them. So,
I actually have a chart that's right behind. I actually have a chart that's right.
Yeah.
I actually have a chart that's right behind the filing cabinet that I just put my drink back down on, which is basically like what you're saying. There are more than 3 states of regulation. This is just but I try to keep things simple for my clients. So, because like what you're saying, when your client is mastering something, then things are moving forward. If I make things overly complicated, then it's not necessarily getting to mastery as quickly. But in reality, there are different combinations and areas between these states. So basically, the thing that I want to focus on, first of all, what we're discussing here is one of the reasons I most want to talk with this group of people. Because as a speech therapist, I am an autism coach, and I have my tools that I could give to my clients. But I often find that what my clients need most, especially in the beginning stages, and not necessarily just in the beginning stages, is help from folks like you, who can help to work through grief and to work through marital issues and family issues and trauma that I'm not necessarily qualified to work on. And this is the beginning. Self-regulation is the beginning of especially when I'm working with the parents of an autistic child, the beginning of their ability to co-regulate with a child. I often say that what's meant to happen is that we are meant to get ventral vagal. It's called co-regulation, when sort of, if you almost want to think of when we're plugged into each other, it's when this ventral vagal, this front of the body, the breathing, the hearing, the facial expressions, the gestures, are in tune with each other. This is what Dr. Porges calls the social engagement system. When we are feeling safe, this is also a ladder of feeling safe. We're only feeling safe. This is a sign that we're feeling safe when we're in this ventral vagal place. And only then can we connect with other people. The other thing, with our background, I think you could also see that I'm pointing to the frontal lobe. A lot of times, for example, a child or an adult could be acting out and the other person is saying, make a good decision. They can't make any decision. They're not feeling safe. These two, sympathetic and parasympathetic dorsal vagal, these two states occur when we feel unsafe. This, you might also be familiar with. The sympathetic state also is fight or flight that we've heard about our whole lives. The dorsal vagal state is associated with freeze, or now we hear about fawn. We can't connect when we're feeling unsafe. But when we connect, that helps us to feel safe. So one of the tricky things in the families that I work with is what's meant to happen. I say, like in my training for relationship development intervention, the woman who trained me, she and her husband developed this methodology, Dr. Sheely. She said in the training, this was a big light bulb for me. She said, you can't co-regulate, have this connected back and forth with somebody else unless you're self-regulated. And then a little down the line, I trained in something called the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is a listening protocol for regulating the nervous system that's developed by Dr. Porges and his team. And he said, you can't self-regulate unless you're co-regulated. And I was kind of angry for a few days. I'm like, who's lying to me? Like, which comes first? And then I understood that Dr. Sheely was talking about what happens in the moment, and Dr. Porges is talking about what happens developmentally. Ideally, we are raised by safe adults that we have co-regulated with and kind of what I call gotten the download. So we have within ourselves the sense of safety so that we could put ourselves out there, engage in growth mindset and dynamic intelligence, engage with other people, take risks, safe enough risks. But what I find is a lot of us haven't gotten the download. So we have to develop it for ourselves or forgo it. But then it's a life of dysregulation. And that is often where I refer out to your kind of therapist, not other speech therapists, but therapists who work on helping people build themselves and heal their relationships. And again, like trauma, marriage, these sorts of things. I met earlier today with Chaim V'Chesed, and they asked, so by the way, I do work entirely on Zoom. Right now, almost my entire caseload is in the US, and we'll see some results soon of what my clients are accomplishing with that. And she said, do you find that the Zoom gets in the way? I said, no, the Zoom doesn't get in the way. Actually, the Zoom is not a bug, it's a feature. It helps people to be in their natural environment and helps them to avoid running around, which they're already doing too much of. What I find the families that are able to make progress are the families that are able to take ownership of their own regulation. Now, sometimes they make the choice and take responsibility, but sometimes it's just the degree of dysregulation that they might have in their system. And so I do, often when I see like a family or a client is spinning their wheels, I will refer out to a therapist, what my girls and I call a feelings doctor. And then I do see that if they're getting the proper kind of treatment particularly to address trauma, they're able to then move forward with the development of dynamic intelligence within the individuals in the system that I could help them with. Okay. So we talked about the social engagement system. You see like the biggest enemy of the social engagement system of our generation on the left. And we see a couple of friends who are managing to fight the urge to dive into a screen and actually socially engage with each other. It really is face to face. And I find that this is like a big hurdle for a lot of the folks that I work with, just having face to face time with their spouse, having face to face time with their child, to be able to have that back and forth that is the foundation of dynamic intelligence that we're working on developing. So co-regulation comes in many forms. There's a regulatory pattern, which is basically that face-to-face back and forth. The most basic is basically a ball back and forth. I have a mentor who calls it serve and return. Like conversations are literally serve and return. Moving together, I'll often have clients like carry something, like maybe carry groceries in together with their child so they can move together. And dancing is an example of that. And Deb Dana has a beautiful example also when sometimes people don't have the energy or the space in their day to do these other things, she has an exercise in the book that I just shared called savoring. And I think that's a lot of what we're connecting with those in our family and our friends when we like go out to dinner together or we have a nice meal together. We're enjoying something together. Okay. So the results that I see in my clients is that they are able to spontaneously and meaningfully communicate verbally for the first time. And I have clients that do this at the age of 3, the age of 6, and I have in the last half year, young adults ages 28 to 33, that for the first time were able to speak without being prompted and just natural to the situation that they were in. Increased empathy. I have a dad that came to me and said, I'm not getting a diagnosis, but I'm autistic. And so is my son. He's not getting a diagnosis either. And about halfway through the year, his son was pretty much all better. Not all better, and nobody's 100%, but so we worked on the other kids in the family. But at the end of the year, it was dad that I was still concerned about because when he wasn't there, mom was crying on the bathroom floor because she felt unseen. And he had an area of expertise that a year later, I went to meet with him about. He's a genius guy. And I figured, okay, I'll spend half an hour to an hour with him. I'll get all of the information I can, and then I'll interpret it for myself the next day because he doesn't really know how to adjust how he's speaking to the people around him. But he started the conversation by saying all of the things that we had done together during our time working together and all of the progress that the kids were making. But the greatest progress that I saw in that conversation is then when we moved on to when he was going to share his area of expertise with me, he started by saying, in preparing for this meeting, I thought about what I know about you and how you think. So I've come up with 3 resources that will be easy for you to use. And then I saw that through the work that he continued to do, because my goal with my clients is not that they're always dependent on me, but they're going to achieve mastery, that he had achieved mastery in being able to do this theory of mind thing that we talked about earlier, to do perspective taking and to take his perspective and share it with another person in a way that they could receive it. Stronger self-advocacy, more flexible thinking, increased resilience, improved probleming ability. Actually, the same family, his son that they had come with concerns about had been sort of like the troublemaker in the family, always starting fights with his brothers and everything. But at that halfway point, sort of the sign that he was doing much better is that he would see when his younger brothers were fighting and he would help them work it out. And he would come to his mom and say, I'm a problem solver now. And as a result of these things, increased empathy and increased problem solving and co-regulation, we have much more peaceful home dynamics. One of the fun things that I've seen come out of my work with families, I'm a speech therapist. I'm trying to work on more spontaneous communication, more speaking. But also I found that the families, the parents will tell me that their marriages improve and even the other siblings are getting along better because of what they've learned from our work together. Okay, so I have some client examples. This family, we have the dates here, started a couple years ago. The single dad, he was recently single at the time. And this little boy was 4 then, and he was speaking. It was a lot of work for dad to even get any of his attention. And this is from a few months ago. And you'll see how the little boy's communication has improved and how he's more tuned into dad now. Okay. See, it's a little difficult for dad to engage him.
Where's our Sonic? Tell me where our Sonic is.
He's right here.
Make him tell us.
He's right in the jail. His bad's coming. Take for Sonic. We better find him.
Where's Snowman? There he is. Grab your Snowman. Beat him up. Give him over here. Take that. Take that.
Miss Julie, we gotta find Snowman.
Get Sonic. Rescue him. We got him.
Okay.
He's safe.
Okay.
He's safe.
Okay.
Save 10 sentences.
I was exhausted.
Oh, wow. We'll come back to this.
I do it.
But you got to check him. He's hurt, yeah. Yeah. Can you hear his heart?
Miss Julie.
Is he breathing?
Miss Julie, come over here. He got a hurt heartache. Open your mouth. Let me see your throat. All right, let's get a shot. Someone's getting a shot.
Mm-hmm. Check his temp.
Blow you up.
Temperature.
Temperature.
Beep.
Oh no, he's got sick.
What's the temp? 100?
120.
It's hot.
He's hot. We better get better soon.
Okay. And I'm going to pause this. And then we have this one mom is talking about the progress. So this the boy Champ that we just saw, a lot of how I see the interactions between the parents of children, and they'll share videos of their assignments from between sessions instead of trying to force their child to sit in front of a screen for time together. So he wasn't speaking, this little boy, a couple of years ago, and in the school meeting that was around the time of the second video, they asked for proof that he was autistic because they didn't believe the parents that he was autistic. He was no longer qualifying for services. He's doing very well in a general education classroom, both academically and socially. He's actually a pretty popular kid now. So it lasts 2.5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up and have questions time. This is the mom of he was 17 when we started working together, and now he's about 20. She's describing her progress through our work together. But also what she describes is kind of overlaps what the progress that is seen at all ages and stages of my work with families.
Running a rat race. I'm trying to be a mother to a child that has struggles. And I think what this has done with, you and I working together these past 2 years, and it's helped me. You've pointed me in a direction that I was not going in. It has helped us. One, I feel like, okay, I'm mothering in a way that I want to mother. I have a child that is now responding to me, responding to my attempts. Before, I felt like when you would go on a date with a guy who wasn't really into you and you're like, and so what I feel like is I'm not doing this dog and pony show to get a relationship with my child. It's just happening. You're incorporating that into loading the dishwasher or putting laundry in. It's you're not setting aside extra time. It's in your day. You're just moving throughout your day. So I feel more satisfied as mom because we're having fun engagements. There are no requirements on him. I don't feel like I have requirements on me because this is just fun and we're just repairing that relationship that a parent and child has. I think Josh felt pretty bad about himself before because it's like you're trying to exist in a world that's difficult. And I think that now I hear him say a lot more like, yeah, I'm good at that. I'm good at that.
Yes.
Yeah. And, he's able to come and talk to me now in a way that he was struggling with before. And I think some of that is because I haven't put demands on him. And so he feels more comfortable talking to me. Yeah. And I think that's been the beauty of this is it's less demands. And that has created this environment where he's more comfortable. And so he's feeling better about himself and he has more confidence. So that's been exciting. It's exciting for him to dare to dream.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap up soon. So this is for more information. That's my website. That's my email address. And I could share that. I could also share a Calendly link if somebody would like to meet with me. I am licensed in Israel, so I understand that if I give the client my CV and my license, a copy of my license, they could take it to the Kupot and it is reimbursable there. I'm also licensed in Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, and California, and am on insurance panels in several of those states. And I offer different levels of support at different price points. And I'd love to do groups if anybody wants to collaborate on a group. Okay. So I could open this up for discussion.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. That was
Thank you so much.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, that was absolutely brilliant. I feel like, so you call yourself a speech therapist?
Right.
Because I would call you something like a speech and communication family therapist.
I have had trouble figuring out what to call myself. My clinical license, what I am licensed in Israel and all of those US states is speech language pathology. My master's degree from Columbia University is in speech language pathology, but I am also an autism coach, which I also don't think describes what I do. And actually, I've debated whether I should say it. I'm looking into getting a doctorate here in Israel, and I'm looking for a doctoral supervisor. So if anybody knows of anybody here that I could connect with, that'd be great. To further develop and establish my method. But what were you going to say, Sharon? I'm sorry, I cut you off. Yeah.
No, you didn't. I just was like, your name for me, what I would call you is a lot of words. Like, you know, it's really a family therapist. Like you're working with the whole family, I feel like. And,
right.
I mean, yes, your niche is neurodivergence, but honestly, what you do would help a lot more families than with neurodivergence. I'm just saying. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's extra challenging.